afternoon, I have joining me the former Vice President, Nigeria Union of Journalists, Otumba Gbenga Onaiga. Thank you very much for finding time to come.
My pleasure.
And Happy New Year to you.
We should sing.
Lekon Shote is Vice President, the brand new Guild of Public Affairs Analyst. Is also a columnist with the Punch newspaper. Thank you very much for coming, sir.
Thank you, Nifemi. Somebody just noted that this is my first time of coming here this year.
This year.
So happy New Year to our viewers.
Happy New Year to you.
To the crew. Yeah.
I'm glad to have you.
It's my first time to this.
Too, right? Yeah, so we should, maybe after the show, we do our New Year celebration and all of that. Okay, so let's begin with the issue of having the Armed Forces Remembrance Day celebrated every 15th of January and the unsettled issues surrounding the Nigerian civil war. Some are saying that the kind of things that happened during the civil war is not worth being celebrated. Do you agree with that?
What we are celebrating is end of the civil war. And then even the World Wars too. I guess we are celebrating everything together. That's my understanding anyway of the Remembrance Day. And the message is to do everything possible to avoid a repeat of those words. I had the privilege of having interviewed late Dean. He called himself Emeka Ojukwu, and I remember asking him, why the Dean? I hear of chiefs, and I said, chiefs. The word chief sounds like thief, so that's why he opted for Dim. Anyway, that's my way. Wonderful man, very intelligent, sound mind, and even his next in command, late General Philip Effiong, for 30 good minutes in that, as when I was still practicing, and they've always spoken about the need to avoid a repeat. The need to avoid a repeat, what you've seen, the millions of lives that were lost during the Civil War in particular. So I guess remembering that day is to remember those heroes of the Civil War, those who lost their life, particularly the military men, and then learn some lessons. So the question is that, have we learned those lessons? Eggheads, intellectuals like Mr. Shote will help us out. So that should be the poster, but I think it's important. My understanding of the celebration is that, yes, the Civil War in particular has ended. Don't let us forget all those heroes and the matters arising from their death.
I understand that after the Civil War, there was the rehabilitation, reintegration plan.
Reconstruction.
And the
3 hours.
Some have the opinion that that really did not work. It became more loud last year at the height of the renewed agitation for Biafra and all of that. But there are many people who are saying that each year that we celebrate the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, it still brings back the question of what happened during the Civil War. There are people on the other side who are saying this is simply a celebration of the massacre in those years.
Well, you just noted in your opening remarks that November 11 used to be the Veterans Day, if you like, Armed Forces Remembrance Days. There's no doubt that somebody lost that war and somebody won that war. I don't think the Germans are celebrating November 11 because they are the ones that lost the war. Initially, my thinking is that it was just looking at the day that the army, happened on the political space in Nigeria, which was January 15, 1966, and that it could not have been a celebration of the end of that war, considering that the president said, the head of state then said, no victor, no vanquished. And then came up with the 3 R's: reconstruction, rehabilitation, and 3 R's.
Reintegration.
No, it wasn't. Reconstruction, rehabilitation. It was three. Okay. Yeah. So my take on this is that, it's like when the mafia say, I spit on your grave. it sounds like, so if I'm on the Biafra side, quote, and then somebody says they are celebrating the defeat of Biafra. If you say you are celebrating the end of the Civil War, it sounds positive. But when I know that I was on the other side and we lost the war, it looks like you are celebrating our defeat. Do you understand? So I would have thought that we'll probably look for another day. Even if they say January 15th because of the time that the military came into our political system, maybe, But I've had issues with that personally, even though I'm not a Biafran, But I've always thought to myself, how would I feel if I was on the other side and somebody says we are marking the day we were defeated? So I think those are the issues, and the issues may not have been so much in view right now if justice had been done. I mean, you and I have heard of an animal called IPOP. Why IPOP? Why MASOP? It must have been because certain issues have not been dealt with.
Remained unresolved over the years.
Yes. Even though I remember saying some time ago that it's Biafra in all of us. Practically every part of Nigeria has been marginalized one way or the other. If you say that you have ended the war and there was no victor, no vanquished. Yes, a few people were reintegrated into the military, I know. And then some people's payments, salaries or whatever it was, is withheld for years, for decades. You understand? I'm not very sure that is very fair. In addition to the fact that some people actually ended up in jail, after the war. Maybe they felt, okay, let's keep them for their own sake or whatever, but some things happen to some people. It doesn't look like it was a fair deal.
Do you want to quickly add to that?
I don't think we should dig too much into this issue of civil war. Some people remember these things. It's like, I just want to plead with our people. It's difficult to forget, really, but we should be able to forgive. So many things went wrong during the Civil War. Some of us were still very young. We saw some. We read a lot in the books, various books written on the Civil War. But I want to believe that the federal government meant well then when they came up with the 3 R's and took some practical steps really to reintegrate our brothers and sisters on the other side. And we thank God that today you can't talk about the economy of this country without referring to our brothers from the southeast part of the country. If some form of reintegration had not been done, I don't think they would have been positioned, so strategically in the economy of this country. However, politically, yes, I agree certain things are not in place. They are not hiding it. Many of us are in sympathy with them, but these things can be taken care of. It's a matter of time. And I'm also aware, having studied as a political scientist too, some countries that actually went through civil war, it takes decades for those who were defeated, so to speak, to be integrated, especially politically. That trust, that confidence, to be restored, it takes time. So that's what I believe. That's what I tell my brothers and sisters from Southeast to understand and get better organized so that the Nigerian system, or other compatriots from other parts of the country can really have that confidence, that trust that, okay, go for the number one. I'm talking about number one position now. It takes time. Study countries around the world that have gone through similar civil wars. That's the reality.
It's all right. If Otumba is not comfortable with the 60s, let's get back to 2018. The issue still remained that I interviewed some ex-servicemen earlier in the week, and the bottom line is still the fact that they don't pay them. And one of them said, who knows if the insecurity we have in the country now is a function of some disgruntled, people who once carried arms. Because unlike other professions, they know how to use arms and ammunition, and that's perhaps the only thing that they know how to do well. So if you don't pay them, there's the possibility that they're going to find their way to use that skill in another way. But then one of the issues we also talked about was the fact that non-payment of pension and gratuities is not only limited to ex-servicemen. It's across board. The teachers are complaining, the civil servants are complaining. What way forward? They call them the unknown soldier. Perhaps the only way you can, you know, celebrate the unknown soldier is not releasing the white pigeons, but paying the widows and the children.
That's a very good one. Just as you have observed, it is not just the retired military personnel that are not being paid. I get text messages practically almost every month from people in a particular state in the southwest, and they say, please, we are not being paid our pension, and we don't feel comfortable with that. And some of them, interestingly, have children in school as old as you may say you think they may be. They have responsibilities. At the minimum, they have to feed themselves. Some of them don't have their own houses, so they have to pay rent. And some landlord will come and begin to embarrass people. So people have to be paid. But I do know that there are some things that the military has done in terms of taking care of the interests of retired military personnel. For example, there's post-retirement housing scheme, for example. I think just last week, this week that we are just ending today, some 400 something ex-military men were graduated from the Oshodi, shall we say, the settlement center, training them in skills that they can use when they are finally demobilized. You know. But for example, if you are not paying us on a regular basis, and we cannot even, in a place like America, for example, the Veteran Association, the head is a cabinet rank position, and is always headed by either a serving military officer or a retired, very high military officer, and is a cabinet rank position, you know. And you have things like free Medicare, you know, disability payments for them, you know, and several other things. Education, you can go to school, they can pay your school. Even there's something also called the ROTC, Retired Officer Training. You go to school, they pay just, I used to see them as a student, they will wear the military uniform to class with us. The army is paying, you know. And then talk about widows. You know, you heard about what happened in the Boko Haram issues some 2 or 3 years ago, when some people actually fired at their Major General. I'm not saying that is good,
mutiny, but
their agitation was that their allowances weren't being paid. You know, and you recall that some people were thrown out of the army, were even to be jailed or even executed because their allowances from, I think they were on some UN mission, and the allowances wasn't paid. How could you go and risk your life? You know, you could say it's a job, it's a job, it's a job, it's a job, it's a job. I understand that, but this job, the risk is higher. And then somebody goes to the battlefield, and luckily he comes back free, and then his allowance, then you now hold on to it. Why would you do that? I think it's wicked. Whereas you will have a chief of a defense staff who will buy a house for his son at 200 and something million naira, and then the son will say, "Daddy, I don't like that house." A serving chief of defense staff, and then the son will now say, I like this one. The man will also pay for it. What is his salary? How much is he paying? I mean, being paid. And then somebody who is a retired person, a lieutenant, a lance corporal, who is now earning 28,000 naira, you are not paying him. That's wrong.
You know, the Buhari administration came on the premise of fighting corruption. And when you take a look at some of these issues, you find out that most of them don't get their gratuities on the percentage they're supposed to get it. Most of them get perhaps just 50% of how much they should have been paid originally. On whose shoulder lies this responsibility of ensuring a system that is accountable, a system that is transparent, that pays ex-servicemen how much they deserve?
I'm surprised that we're still talking about this issue of regular or irregular payment of gratuities, because we've been on it for quite some time, and I'm sure that's why the reform, that was the essence of a reform in the pension scheme.
Which also turned out to be another...
No, it's not. I'm a beneficiary, and to me it's working out well. I get my pensions regularly. In fact, last December, instead of paying on the 24th, they paid as early as 18th. It depends on the
Did you get your complete gratuity at the point of retiring?
You can't get it. You choose. You decide to. No, I don't think you're allowed to get everything. So I don't consider it nuisance.
Okay.
You get the whole thing, you pop it into one business you never prepared for.
But the challenge
you are
really,
swindled, and you consider it nuisance.
I understand that system of not getting it all, but the challenge that we have seen reported in the past couple of years is the fact that people don't get paid on the scale. For instance, you're supposed to pay 33% or 53%, and then you get lesser than that. That's the challenge. The fact that they are not getting the amount they were supposed to be paid.
And these are the technicalities. You can challenge these things even in court if you choose to. But I'm not saying it's perfect. It was newly introduced many years ago. What I'm saying is the regularity. You know, it's regular. And I'm telling you my own, that even in December, at least for the past 2-3 Christmas period now, instead of paying 24th, they will pay either 18th or 20th. You know, maybe to give you some time to go to the market. The money is just for you to feed, and sort of. It's not as if it's fantastic, but it's regular and it's something. It's something. At least you can buy gari, buy rice, buy whatever to feed.
How come some ex-servicemen now don't get it? Because you did not even carry arms while you served Nigeria. We're saying that those people who now risk their lives should even be favored.
Yes, it's unfortunate. They should even be given a priority. I know, but I doubt if the case is as bad as it used to be.
It has improved, but it is not fantastic.
Well,
you know, as a matter of fact, they are even talking about 20.3% that was shaved off from their pension under the Yaradua administration. As a matter of fact, there is a website now, that interactive website that they post things. I was looking at some things last night, things that there was serious complaints. Practically, I had to stop at a point, but I must have read about 200 postings, and if I'm not exaggerating, I think 180 of those postings were complaints. Some people say, oh, it's not as bad as, but most of those postings were terrible. So and it's an ongoing thing, you know. People can't be comfortable. Listen, I want to emphasize this. Individuals like us who braved it, joined the army, and said we are prepared to defend other Nigerians. And then we are treating them like this. And then even when they die, their widows, their children, they are not treated very, very well. I recall many years ago, some of the people who died in the Ejigbo subject.
The military.
I know the wife of one of those men. About 20-something years after, she was discussing with me that nothing has been done. 20-something years after. Is that fair? No, it cannot be.
That's all right. We're going to have to turn our attention to other matters now, and then we'll get back to this.